There, go live. We're not even talking Barbara Walters. And we're live here on Facebook. Like to welcome those listening in podcast land, and also like to welcome my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Mike. Deep in the heart of Texas tonight,
Yeah,
recording
yeah, that's exciting.
on a little bit of a vacation, but around 9:30 is when people start turning in. So yeah, started taking an hour away and come record with you.
Yeah,
But Mike, so I'm down in Texas on a little bit of a vacation. How have you been so
we,
lately, Mike?
we've been doing great. Did you have a good Christmas and are you ready for New Year's?
Yeah, yeah.
Good, good.
Ready for the new year.
You
So
get
looking
everything you
forward to at
wanted for
least having
Christmas?
some temperatures in the 70s around for New Year's. So
Hey, it's gonna be above freezing tomorrow. It's gonna be like 34 degrees tomorrow up here. I'll be wearing shorts and people won't look at me like I'm crazy.
hmm, all right.
So Rich, we got a pretty busy show and you got a bit of a time crunch. So let's get to our topics this week. Man, do we have a lot to talk about when it comes to the World Cup? We have two whole topics in the world of soccer today.
Two. We
Today,
do.
on top of it, we have college football. Rich, what else do we have as our main topics?
Well, then we'll be going into the NFL as we got 2 weeks to recap and 1 week to preview, as well as well. And then we'll be wrapping up the show talking about the Chicago Cubs as three new players signed with the Cubs in between our shows.
And a trade rumor that is not on the dock,
Okay.
but I saw it. Not even like it's just a rumor of a team looking to trade a particular player that I think we should go after.
All right, Mike. So all that and more, Mike. But what do we got to do first?
We gotta roll the intro,
All right.
and I gotta feed the kids.
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.
And we're back. Yeah, so my fish are now getting to the point where when I put the food in, they come right at it and they start attacking it. It's awesome. Like,
Nice.
I like, and they're getting bigger, so you actually will start to see them swimming around over there. It's gonna be totally awesome. Okay, that's enough fish update. Rich, we had a poll question. Man, am I shocked when I looked at this poll right before the show started.
Mm-hmm.
This is not at all what I thought was going to happen. I voted
Yeah,
for
me neither.
one of my favorite songs of all time from one of my favorite bands from all time. In fact, do we have a quick story time moment?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So my wife and I were getting after we got engaged, we were discussing we were trying to figure out what song to dance to. We didn't have a song. We never did. I'm not that type of a guy. She apparently didn't think about it. We got engaged, so we had to figure out what song we were going to dance to. And she wanted to do a waltz. So I found a song in a waltz time signature,
Mm-hmm.
4/4. And I presented her the lyrics. And she's like, oh, that's nice. But I didn't tell, like, I was very specifically trying to lead her down a path. And so I showed her the lyrics, and she got concerned. So she started looking into who did the lyrics, and figured out that it was Metallica, and I was trying to get her to dance to "Nothing Else Matters." Now I found a really pretty rendition with a piano and a cello, and it was gorgeous, and it would have been great. And I think she would have really liked it had it not been for being Metallica, because she's not a big Metallica person.
Gotcha.
So,
All right. So the poll question last week, it was a 2 week poll time frame that you could vote on it.
yep.
It was Enter the Sandman by Metallica or Hell's Bells by AC/DC.
Yeah.
Two songs made famous in the world of sports, thanks to Mariano Rivera and Trevor Hoffman.
Yeah, I personally went with Enter Sandman. By the way, my first ever album was an AC/DC album, but probably one of my favorite bands of all time is Metallica. So I voted Enter Sandman. How did you vote, Rich?
I went with Hell's Bells because the history shows that when I was looking into this, that the Yankees were looking for an entrance song for their closer to kind of duplicate that atmosphere with for Mo when he was entering the game that they saw firsthand when they played the Padres in the World Series and had to seeing the crowd just react so much when Charlton was coming into the game to save. And they settled on Enter the Sandman. So that's why I went with Hell's Bells since it came first.
Yeah, I went with the song I like better. That's just what I did. So,
All right, and which song won, Mike?
And your winner is Hell's Bells. I don't know I know I got 16%, so that would be 84% for Hell's Bells. I was the lone vote for Enter Sandman.
All right, Mike. So this week we're going to go with Wild Thing, taking on a newer song that's associated with Mets closer Edwin Diaz being Narcos. So I've got that already scheduled, and so I'll just have to watch for that poll to go live, and I'll put some videos on the link so you can get a good feel for both songs.
Okay.
All right, Mike, so let's go ahead and go over to the NFL as we got 2 weeks to preview. So do you want to kind of talk about the weeks or just want to give our results first?
Wow. So much that week 15 had so much to talk about. Let's talk about week 15, give our results for both weeks, and then talk about week 16. How about that?
That'll work.
Okay. So the Colts have a 30-0 lead going into the half, right? Wasn't it going into the half?
I think so. It was the half.
Yeah.
And they were playing the Vikings.
And they're playing the Vikings.
A number 2 seed in their conference.
Yeah. Doing amazingly well. And, oh my goodness, Matt Ryan, and I'm going to put it at the feet of Matt Ryan at this point, rests on his laurels and gives up a 30-0 lead, the highest lead ever given up by an NFL team. Number one. Number two, he now owns the highest point differential given up in like 4 different categories. In the the Super Bowl, the regular season overall. And I think in the it was weird. I saw a stat, but either way, he his teams have done this a lot more than I think they should. Not a good look. Kind of scary. So that happened.
And he lost his starting job out of it as the Colts are going to turn to Nick Foles to close out the regular season now.
Okay. Now, on top of it, we had another crazy game ending in a even crazier way. Rich, tell us about it.
That ending happened in the Patriots-Raiders game. So the game is tied. And for the life of me, I don't know what, because I didn't watch the game, so I wasn't watching live. I was only reacting to this after it had already happened, seeing the highlight. But if it's tied and you're playing to go into overtime, why not just kneel the ball? But the Patriots chose to run it and give it to their running back, who's having a great year this year, Rashonde Stevenson. So Stevenson runs it out the ball. So his only thing is to not fumble the ball.
Yep.
Maybe go for a touchdown if he can make his way into it. But what he chooses to do is he gets as far as he can, and then he laterals the ball to wide receiver Jacoby Myers, who goes a little bit further, and then he also laterals it back to the quarterback, who is Mac Jones. But it doesn't make it back to Mac Jones. It gets intercepted by former Patriot Chandler Jones, who has an, oh man, what just happened? And then he runs in for the game-winning touchdown on an interception off of a lateral. That just doesn't seem like a Patriot play.
Recovery?
I'm sorry?
Did that actually count as an interception, or did it count as a fumble recovery?
I think it would have been an interception, I would imagine.
But it wasn't a forward pass. I thought, I don't know. I don't know how it, because if the ball would have hit the ground, it would have been considered a fumble. Right?
Well, either way,
Either
it
way,
was
he
still
got
recovered.
it. Yeah.
And it won the game for him. That just doesn't seem like a play that Bill Belichick would call for, or even normally his team would even execute.
Yeah. Now, kudos to Bill Belichick. Doesn't throw anybody under the bus. Doesn't get super mad about it. Just does his thing.
Didn't work.
Didn't work.
I mean, I don't get the logic behind it, because it isn't like. I mean, I don't even think that play would work if you had lateraled the ball back to some of the better running quarterbacks in the NFL, like your Lamar Jacksons, a Kyler Murray, even a Josh Allen. That wouldn't have worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let alone Mac Jones. So I don't get it. I mean, it's an odd way to have a game end.
Yeah, I don't understand why you would do that anyway. If you're lateraling it, you're generally at a point where you're just at a loss, and you're trying to just get to a win.
Exactly. You pull off that type of play if you're losing.
Right.
And the only way that you're going to get that win is by scoring a touchdown.
Yeah, I don't.
This game was tied.
I don't get it. Yeah, Bill called the play though, so it's on him. So
I guess so. And I mean, by all means, I think even the players at hand even said, "We messed up.
Yep,
we messed that one up. Let's go move on to the next week."
Yep. Okay.
Which is what the Patriots do.
So let's move on from there. Now let's talk about the other game, our locks of the week. Locks of the week, Rich. You picked for Week 15 the Bills over the Dolphins. Lock it up, because yes, the Bills won 32-29, raising your total to 12-2-1. I picked the Chiefs over the Texans. Man, that was a lock. The Chiefs won 30-24, raising me to 10-5. Yeah, Rich.
Yeah, by all means, both of those games came out to be a lot closer than probably both of us thought they would.
Yeah.
I didn't think, I thought with the cold weather that the Bills I thought both offenses would stall.
Yeah.
So I was really surprised to see 32-29, and I think the Chiefs even came back. In their game against the Texans. That was not the Texans running up the score in garbage time. That was an actual game.
Yeah. Really, really surprising. And then, Rich, how did our upsets do in Week 15?
Well, my upset did not come through, as it was 24-12 Packers over the Rams. Mike, you got, which brings me to 8-7. Mike, you did get your lock as the Giants beat the Commanders 20-12, raising your mark to 7-8.
Week 15, we saw the Bears versus the Eagles. We both picked the Eagles. We both got it, as the Eagles beat the Bears 25-20. A closer game than anybody thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
I am at 12-2 picking the Bears. You are at 8-6. The Bears are at 3-11. Thursday night football brought us Jags versus the Jets. Rich, how'd we pick and how'd they do?
All right, Mike, I went with the Jags. You went with the Jets, and it was a 19-3 Jaguars victory. I go to 12-6 for Thursday games. Mike, you dropped to 11-7.
Yeah.
All right. Going into week number 16, my lock of the week was the Browns over the Saints. That did not go through, as it was 17-10 Saints, which dropped my record in locks to be 12-3-1. Mike, your lock of the week was the Ravens over the Falcons. It was 17-9 Ravens, bringing your mark to 11-6. Mike, give us the upsets.
In the upset specials, Rich, you picked the Raiders over the Steelers. That was you did not get that one, as the Steelers came through on that, winning at 13-10, bringing you to 8-8. The Eagles, I picked the Eagles over the Cowboys. The Cowboys won that game, and at 40-34, bringing me down to 7-9. Rich, we saw the Bears versus the Bills. We both picked the Bills. What happened in that game?
Well, Mike, it was a 35-13 Bills win, dropping the Bears to 3-12. Your record goes up to 13-3, and I go to 10-6. So before we get into Week 17, and Week 17 is Thursday Night Football, so the Cowboys take on the Titans down in Nashville. We both picked the Cowboys, and the Cowboys won 27-13, ending the Thursday Night Football records at 12-7 for you and 13-6 for me. There is no Thursday Night Football for week number 18. So before we go into our power rankings and giving you our predictions for week number 17, we did have two significant events happen from show to show.
Yeah.
The first one was J.J. Watt announcing that he's going to retire at the end of the season.
Yeah, that did happen.
I think, Mike, I mean, he's gone through a lot of injuries. He's come back from a lot of injuries, but I think he's probably going to be the first Houston Texans to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and well-deserved. Well-deserved. Now, does he go in as a Texan or does he go in as a Cardinal?
He'll probably go in as a Texan.
I would hope so.
He spent the majority of his career there. And the other news, the event that happened on the day after Christmas, so on Boxing Day, Denver fired their head coach, Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah. I mean, and didn't they extend Russ?
Yeah, well, they extended Russ at the beginning of the regular season, so they are stuck with him. So any new head coaching hire knows that they've got Russ. They're tied to Russ.
Yeah. So, other news, it does seem like Derek Carr is going to be benched for the rest of the season. Yeah, he has been
benched. I mean, I think that's more or less doing to prevent an injury, because if he gets injured, his salary for the next year goes into the guaranteed. So he has actually excused himself from the team with the team's approval. So he's not even going to be dressed and eligible to play over the next 2 games.
Well, and I've read, and this again is rumor mill, but that a release may be potential in that situation.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they are going to plan to release him.
And what do you think? Would the Colts go after him?
I think the Colts need to get off of the veteran stopgate train that they've been on ever since Andrew Luck retired, and I think they finally need to commit to a young guy and draft a guy in the draft. But one team that isn't afraid to take a chance on a veteran quarterback and probably needs just a good enough quarterback will be the New York Jets.
Yeah, that's a good point. So,
however,
but again, this is all.
Come on.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Carr has come out and said that he wants to be a Raider for life, and it wouldn't also surprise me if he would just retire if he can't play for the Raiders.
Yeah, I could see that as well. So, okay, let's get into power rankings. Rich, I didn't get the ELO updated, so we won't do that.
That's fine. We can just do ours.
We'll just do ours.
So do you want to go top to bottom to top, or do you want to go start at number 1 and work our way down?
You want to do a top 10 countdown?
Yeah.
Starting at 10.
Number 10. Number 10 is
the Miami Dolphins.
I put the Dolphins here as well. They're a team they're trending down, but they're still in a playoff picture, and I kind of like their record.
Yep.
Other than the other 2 teams, I couldn't drop them out of my top 10 just yet.
Yep.
Number 9, Mike, is where I put the LA Chargers.
Number 9 is where I have the Baltimore Ravens.
All right, I'm not that far off on the Ravens. I put them at number 8.
My rankings got screwed up again. This is not the right. Hang on, let me go to my other one. That might not be accurate. Yeah, this one's slightly more accurate. Okay. At number 8, I have the San Francisco 49ers.
All right. Well, we're just off one again as I put the Niners at number 7 in my rankings.
Okay. Well, this is number 7 is where I have the Los Angeles Chargers. To me, they're trending up. I think look out for them. They're going to be a dangerous team. At number 6, I have the Cincinnati Bengals.
I put the Dallas Cowboys here at 6. This was before getting a great victory over their division rivals with the Eagles, although it was a victory without Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
But I still feel the teams that I have above them deserve to be there, so that's why I put the Cowboys at number 6.
I don't blame you there. I have the Cowboys at number 5.
All right, my number 5 is those Cincinnati Bengals. They're playing great at the right time of the year.
Yep, that's very accurate. Who do you have at number 4, Rich?
Number 4, I put the Minnesota Vikings.
I have Kansas City Chiefs at number 4.
Okay, I put the Chiefs at 3.
Okay. I have the Buffalo Bills at 3. And at number 2, I have the Minnesota Vikings.
You have the Vikings all the way up at 2.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the Vikings have a great record, but they've been playing in they've had a lot of close games where they've just barely pulled it off. And that can either mean two things. It's either their year and they're finding way, or they're getting lucky. It's either their year and those close victories are a sign that it's just their year and they're not going down without a fight, or it's 2, they're getting lucky in a lot of games and that luck is going to run out when they're playing great teams. So that's
here's
why
what I would
put them
argue
down at 4.
Here's what I would argue with those those come from behind victories, especially because those are really what you're talking about. The close games as well. They're a team that seemingly is overlooking some of their competition. And they have, I'll admit, they've overlooked teams that they shouldn't. And they've made some sloppy mistakes. And then what do they do at halftime? They correct their mistakes, they make changes, and they come out and they show who they really are. The best teams we've seen for the last 25 years, Rich, have been the Bill Belichick New England Patriots, who go into halftime, make changes, and show who they are. To me, that's what I see the Vikings doing. Over and over again this year, they have come in to halftime, made adjustments, made changes, and show and come out to be the victorious team. Time and time again. That's why I will continue to put them at number 2. And
for me, I just think that the Chiefs, who I have at 3, and the Bills I have at 2, are better than the Vikings. So I think if those two teams had to play each other, either team played the Vikings, I'm going to take the Chiefs or the Bills in that game.
Okay, and I don't think you're wrong. Honestly, I honestly think these top 4 are pretty darn close. Like, except the top 1. I think the top 1 is the best. 2, 3, and 4, I think, are hair margins of who's better and who's worse. Honestly, I think they're that close. But the number 1 team is very obvious this year. Playing amazing football, your Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, they could have been. Gardner Minshew almost got him the victory against Dallas.
Yeah,
almost.
We'll get to it, but part of me wants them to lose this game this week, and a big part of me doesn't. and you'll learn why in a couple of minutes. But if they lose this week, that means that the Vikings could be playing for the number 1 spot overall in the NFC.
All right. So, Mike, let's get to the bottom 5.
Okay.
And then move over to Week 17 predictions. So my my team at number 28 is where I put the Indianapolis Colts.
I have the Rams here.
Okay.
29, I have the Arizona Cardinals.
I put the Cardinals here too, with or without Kyler Murray. They just haven't played good football.
Nope.
Just haven't done it this year. Number 30 is where I put the Denver Broncos.
Exactly. 31,
I think we're going to agree on the last two as well. 31, the Chicago Bears.
By the way, they could go down a whole spot in this week. And 32, your Houston
Texans.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty terrible team. So, okay, let's, Rich, where do you have the Green Bay Packers?
Well, Mike, because they're very close to making the playoffs. If things go right, I put them at number 17.
Yeah, I don't mind that, except I have them at 20, and I have the Lions at 19.
Oh, I put the Lions at number 18 for me.
Okay. Real talk, if either one of those two, like, if you were, let's say the Vikings. Let's go with the Vikings, because this is a very real possibility. You're the Vikings. Okay. You're the number 2 overall. The Lions or the Packers get in. If they get in, they'll be the last team, which means you will play them at home. Who do you want to play?
I don't think I'd want to play either team, Mike.
100% agree.
You can never tell what happens in a division game. Yes, there's a lot of tape. You have a lot of tape on them, but as the opposing team, they have 2 games just this year that they can look at on you to figure out what went wrong and what went right. What went right or wrong when you played each other in the regular season.
Let's look past the Vikings. Let's say the Vikings and Eagles swap spots. The Eagles now. Do you really want to play either of those two teams? They're both hot, getting hot at the right time. I actually think the Lions are the scarier team because they're playing with house money. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers have something to prove. They were expected to be the team to beat this year in the NFC North. The Lions, people thought they were going to be improved, but nobody thought they'd be playoff bound. So I think the Lions are the ones that I think are scarier in the playoffs. That's why I gave them the 1 rank higher. So, okay.
Gotcha.
With all of that being figured out, let's go into our predictions, Rich. This week, you have honors for Week 17, Lock of the Week.
For my Lock of the Week, I'm going to take the Chiefs over the Broncos. They got an interim head coach, veteran coach that was brought in just to be like a game strategy or game management coach.
Yep.
After Hackett blew Week 1. Blew Week 1 due to clock management issues. But Russ isn't playing well. The Broncos aren't playing well. There's turmoil on the sidelines.
Yeah.
So, and the Chiefs are probably the best team in the AFC, or at least one of the two. One A and 1B, depending on how you see the Bills or the Chiefs. I don't see the Chiefs dropping that one.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you got a good pick there. I picked the Eagles over the Saints, even though I actually want the Saints to pull it off, because if the Saints pull it off, that means next week my way too early prediction of stuff, I can finagle to make it look pretty close to what actually is going to happen. But Eagles over the Saints, I think that's a pretty decent lock right there.
All right, Mike, upset of the week. I'm going to go with the Bengals over the Bills. I can see either team winning this game. The Bengals are hot right now.
Yeah,
they are hot. Josh Allen is...
You literally just said that the Chiefs are 1A or B in the AFC, and you're going to then give the 1A, 1B, whatever your argument is, you're going to give them the loss against the Joe Bengals.
Yeah. Wow. Joe Burrow and the Bengals are playing great football right now.
I agree they
Josh
are.
Josh Allen seems to have a case of the turnovers.
Yeah, I think he'll clean it up. I think that's a tight one for you. I am going out on a limb again. So my lock of the week goes against my super early prediction that next week's games matters for something, versus this pick. The Houston Texans beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm still not sold on the Jags. I'm really not. They look better than they have in a while, but the Texans have been playing football. They've actually showed up this week.
And they almost beat the Cowboys. They almost beat the Chiefs. They just couldn't finish it out, and they ended up losing the game.
Yeah, I think they could. They pull off one win. That actually puts them at for second in the draft, and the Bears have to lose this week and next week, and they would be number 1 overall if the Texans win one of these two games. Okay.
All right. Speaking of those Bears, they will go to Detroit. Mike, are you going with the Bears or the Lions?
I just got through arguing that I think the Lions are the scariest team right now, especially heading into the playoffs if they can make it, and they have to win to make it.
Okay.
Count on them to win.
All right. I'm going to go with the Lions there as well.
Okay. Rich, anything else in the world of football that you would like to talk to before we talk about football?
No, I don't like.
Okay. So when we last discussed, the World Cup was going on. Argentina versus France. And
we both said France would win.
We both did, but apparently Argentinians were praying for a miracle, and it happened. Argentina wins 3-2, a game that went into penalty kicks. Didn't it?
I don't know. I didn't watch the game.
I thought it did. Anyway, yeah. Did you get to hear the announcer for Telemundo?
I did not.
Oh,
I'm sure he said goal a bunch of times. Though.
No. Sorry, we're gonna interrupt our normal show. Hopefully this just has it. Nope, I'm gonna go to YouTube. Sorry, I know we're actually only at 33 minutes overall in the show, Rich. So we're doing decent in time, but you gotta hear this. Sorry. Gotta wait for commercials to end. I think I have it queued up to the right
spot. Going first, setting the tone for France.
That's not even what I want. Ah!
Bendito sea el fútbol. De línea.
Es que de la nada aparecen situaciones.
Montiel. Argentina campeón del mundo.
That wasn't even the whole thing.
The Spanish broadcast never disappoints.
No. Oh, no. Here it is. I think this one's better.
Va Montiel. Montiel. ¡Gol! Argentina campeón. Argentina campeón del mundo. Argentina campeón del mundo. Argentina campeón del mundo. Argentina campeón del mundo. Argentina es campeón del mundo. Pero el cielo lo hizo Diego, lo hizo Cuchufo, lo hizo el Tata, lo hizo Luque, lo hicieron ustedes jugadores que se ganaron el cielo. Argentina campeón del mundo. Messi es campeón del mundo. Argentina. Argentina campeón del mundo,
Rich, I'm gonna send you. I'm actually gonna put the link in here so you and Amy can watch it. You guys, yeah, it's a tearjerker. It's amazing. It was great. It's in the doc. You can see it. You guys can watch it later.
And speaking of tearjerker, the news that rocked the world of soccer and probably the entire world of sports yesterday, as the great Pele passed away at the age of 82 due to complications from colon cancer.
Man, don't get me wrong. If I lived to 82, Rich, don't feel guilty pulling that plug. It's okay. I've lived a good life. But man, Pele died. That's sad. I legitimately didn't find out until Rich told me on air or in our pre-show, and legitimately rocked me a little bit. I was shocked. I'm not a huge soccer fan. I've come to love it in the last few years, and I will continue to love it. But man, Pele, you don't even need to know soccer to know Pele, and that's a huge deal. It's the same way that
you don't have to know hockey to know who Wayne Gretzky is.
Yeah, so Rich, we have, for some reason, our live video has stopped.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Because of the... Sorry, I played that video for you. That video has got a strike for us. So our Facebook is done. We'll finish the recording, and then we'll publish the recording on YouTube and on our podcast sites.
Gotcha. They didn't. The Facebook police didn't like the unauthorized use of that YouTube clip, I guess.
Sorry, we were commentating on it. It's fair use. Facebook, get your algorithm fixed. You did it wrong, and you didn't use it correctly. We were commentating on it. If we were in a court of law, fair use would fall in. By the way, we're making no money.
So continuing on with the show, Pele died.
Yeah.
That being exactly, you didn't have to be a soccer fan or even know much about soccer. And as somebody said, Pele, you know that he is associated with soccer because he was that big of a global ambassador for the sport in his home country of Brazil.
Yeah. So, sad, but death is inevitable. So, are you truly living? Okay, let's move on from there and go back to football Americano as we talk about.
That's right, Mike.
As we have college football bowl games to talk about. Rich, let's start out. You go first.
All right, so we're going to start with the Orange Bowl, Mike, which is currently going on and had started before we started our recording, but we did put in our recording, our predictions before.
Yep.
Before the game started, I'm assuming right now, I went with Tennessee. Mike, you put down Clemson, and the current score with 8:34 left in the fourth quarter is Tennessee 28, Clemson 14.
Okay.
So we'll fill in the actual scores on next week's show.
Yeah.
So, Mike, there we're going into the New Year's Six Bowls. So the Sugar Bowl, Mike, number 5 Alabama versus number 9 Kansas State, which won the Big 12.
Yep. Bama.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go Alabama there as well. All right, the Music City Bowl. We'll see the local Iowa Hawkeyes taking on the Kentucky Wildcats.
Yeah, the problem is that Iowa's team has won in spite of itself. That offense hasn't produced enough. I got to go with Kentucky on this one.
I'm agreeing with Mike. Mike, what's our next bowl that we're
Our next bowl is going to be the Raleigh Quest Bowl. Mississippi State versus Illinois. Mississippi State ranked 23. Illinois not ranked. I've always been a fan of Illinois, so I got to pick Illinois on this one.
I'm going to go with Mississippi State. They're playing for the late coach Mike Leach, who passed away. I believe he had cancer as well. Was
it cancer?
You have more screens than I do, so why don't you look that up real quick as I give you our next bowl game, which is the Cotton Bowl, which will see number 16 Tulane take on number 10 USC from the Pac-12. Mike, who do you like in that game?
I'm picking USC.
As am I. And then we're going to go down to Orlando to the Citrus Bowl, which will see number 17 LSU take on unranked Purdue.
LSU.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Purdue got in that ball game, other than being that more than likely Ohio State and Penn State got.
It was not cancer. It was a.
What was it?
It was a heart condition.
Oh, okay.
So
thanks for clearing that up, Mike. But yeah, I think if anything, Purdue gets into this bowl game. But what they won the Big Ten West. Yeah, they won the Big Ten West, and Penn State and Ohio State got chosen for more prestigious bowl games. And finally, Mike, before we get into the college football semifinals, we have the Rose Bowl, which will see number 11 Penn State take on number 8 Utah.
I think Utah wins it.
I'm going to go with Penn State here because of all the other bowl games, I went with the higher seeded team, so I wanted to go with an underdog on this one.
I went with who I think is a better team. So in the college football playoffs for 20, is this considered 2023 or 2024? Is it the last time we only have
23? I think it's 23.
Anyway,
or it'd be 22, the 22 season.
Okay.
So Mike, will it be the Fiesta Bowl, which will see number 3 TCU take on number 2 Michigan?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Michigan. TCU is happy that they're in there, but they're not a big team. They don't have the wherewithal to be able to swing with the big dogs. Watch for Michigan to just beat up on them.
Yep, and then the other two semifinal game will go in Michigan. Will be played in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is the Peach Bowl, which will see number 4 Ohio State take on number 1 Georgia.
Rich, you said that wrong. It is the Ohio State University.
Okay.
That's who's going to win. Not really.
I'm going to go with number 1 Georgia. They're the number 1 team in the nation.
And it's a home game.
And they play a home game for them, and they play probably in one of the toughest divisions in football.
Yeah, they
college football.
I think Georgia probably wins. I just wanted to say the Ohio State University.
Yeah. However, I think they probably drew the toughest matchup. If any team can match up, it's going to be Ohio State. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Ohio State win the game too.
And in that, Ohio State was the team that halfway through the season, nobody knew if they were going to even make the playoffs, and by rallying that second half, really did make themselves a spot. They won themselves that number 4 spot, and totally brought themselves to a point to get there. And we always talk about in the NFL, it's who's hot at the right time. in playoffs, it is always getting hot at the right time is what gets you going. And I will stand by that every time. Ohio State's hot. Look for them to win.
All right, Mike. So I just want to look at the calendar real quick, and they will be playing the national championship game on Monday the 9th. So we do not need to make a prediction for that game based off of how we pick the semifinal games. So that will do it for our college football coverage for this week, which takes us down to our quick hits, which is where I put in some signings that the Cubs made from show to show. So the Cubs have brought in Drew Spiley to fill in the back end of the rotation, a good depth piece for him as well.
Yep.
They signed Tucker Barnhart to share the catching duties with Yan Gomes and to make up for the departure of Wilson Contreras over the Cardinals.
You can never make up for the departure of Wilson Contreras.
Okay, and their big signing was Dansby Swanson to be the new shortstop over the next 7 years, as he signed a 7-year contract.
Yeah, a good shortstop. Maybe not one of the top 5 I'd put him in the top 5 shortstops. I'd put him easily in the top 10 shortstops in the league. I don't know that I'd put him in the top 5, but still a really
definitely a top 10 shortstop. And did you catch his introductory news conference at all, Mike?
I didn't. It's on my playlist. I was gonna try to watch it before the show, but we're trying.
The thing is, he has a connection to the Cubs, though.
He does.
As he talked about how he'd come home from school, he'd go see his grandpa because they lived right across the street from him, and he'd say every afternoon he'd come home from school, his grandpa would be having the Cubs game on. He asked him, Grandpa, we live in Atlanta. We're Braves fans. Why are you always watching the Cubs? It's just because I like baseball, and they're on. So he signed with Grandpa's second favorite team.
Yeah, and I'm good with that.
And yeah, and it kind of hit him hard. And you could tell at the news conference that his grandpa passed away like a day after he got married. And they just felt the Cubs were their place to go to play for Grandpa's second favorite team. So, and I think it's a good signing overall based on the money that Bogarts, that maybe guys that were household name shortstops that were free agents, they got more money like Correa and Bogarts, and Turner. Swanson was probably number 4 of the shortstops, but I think the Cubs think the Cubs signed the right guy.
Oh yeah, no, I totally am behind it. I think it's a great signing. I'm happy about it. Now, something I saw today.
Okay.
An announcement about a guy who his team has put him on, as he put out a notice that they may be up for trades for him. For a guy who has been in Chicago before. The Boston Red Sox have announced that they're looking for a trade partner for Chris Sale.
Not the guy I was thinking of. I thought that you were referring to their all-star third baseman, Rafael Devers.
Hey, if we can get a 2-for-1 deal, Chris Sale would bring another strong arm to the starting rotation.
He would, but he's not the same Chris Sale that he was when he first went from Chicago to Boston and then signed his long-term extension. This is a guy that's been struggling to stay healthy.
Yeah, but do we need him to be... What's our starting rotation look like?
Well, the starting rotation, I don't think, has a clear-cut ace.
We don't have an ace. And I think we have 2... Maybe... I would say we have 2 guys that our top 2 guys are both 2.5 to 3s.
I can agree with that. Tejon and Stroman, and then you got And then you got some depth pieces there to round out the rotation with kind of Kyle Hendricks. At this stage of his career, you got to admit that he's not an ace. I don't
He's
think he
not.
ever has been an ace.
He's never been an ace, but his control has made him the guy that gets the ball in those games.
Yeah. So
Now-
you have Kyle Hendricks probably getting one rotation spot, and then the other two slots going to some guys that maybe are fringe guys on whether they should be operating out of the bullpen or in the starting rotation. Those guys like Justin Steele, Javier Assed, Hayden Wazanowski, Adrian Simpson, and now Drew Smiley.
But wouldn't it be nice to have a guy like Chris Sale, who you can count on as a solid 2? He has the ability to be a solid 2+.
If he can stay healthy.
If he stays healthy. I get it. I get that's a huge if. But if you get him to be a 2+, he very much could be a guy that could help this team in the season. And I actually don't think that would be a terrible pickup for us.
Yeah, for me, Mike, I think I like the starting rotation the way it is right now. As
We need an ace.
Okay, are they going to contend this year though?
We have heard it said that the pocketbooks have been open.
But did they go out and sign a guy that could be an ace? They didn't go out and sign. They didn't go out and bring in probably the best pitcher on the market, was Jacob deGrom, a guy that also is struggling to stay healthy.
Yeah, I agree, and I think
Or
that
even
there's
Carlos Rondon.
I think there's a lot to be said. We'll see. I don't know. I agree with you that it's not cut and dry yet. But what I'm saying is we're probably not a contender this year. I will admit that. But I believe Sale still has a couple more years left on his contract. He's a guy that can bring something to the team. B, you got a couple more years of him. And I don't think it's going to be that trade can't be that heavy on your contract.
Yeah, for me, I'd rather see him if they're going to try and work out a trade with Boston to see if you can get Rafael Devers.
Yeah, I'm okay
But
with that.
the thing is, it would take a lot of those prospects who you traded away your World Series core to get.
Yep.
So you'd almost have to get, if you're going to get Devers, you got to have a plan to get him extended. With the prospect capital that it would take to bring him in, along with probably throwing in Sale, as well in that same deal.
And I think the bigger problem there is that if you do start trading away those prospects, and those really strong prospects, by the way, if you start trading those guys away, you got to start looking towards your faithful are going to start expecting a year or two. That's it. You're going to have 1 or 2 years at most to make a real run at it. And if you don't, then I think if you continue to build these prospects up and get these prospects to come through, you have 3 to 5 years. If you trade away those prospects, which are what we got for our core guys that we said, okay, but we're building for the future, you then only have 2 years. And that's why I think you're right. I think it would take some significant a longer term deal, and B, I think you're going to have to get more than just. I think Chris Sales has to come.
Exactly. You don't want to trade away the farm to get a guy that could only be on your team for a year.
Yeah.
And so I guess, I don't know who represents Devers, but if it's Scott Boras, I don't make that deal. Scott Boras does not let his clients negotiate in season.
The problem with that concept is that Scott Boras represents too many people to stop making deals like that for guys. And it's going to end up hurting him. Like, you would think that would hurt him in the long run, but it ends up not, and he ends up still getting those big deals. So, yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't think the Cubs are quite a finished product yet, as I think they still got to figure out who's going to play third and first, because who's going to be playing third and first right now? I mean, I've heard good things about Matt Mervis, guy that's been tearing up AAA, but until I see how he does in the majors, right now I kind of see him as kind of like a 4A player, maybe too good for AAA, but not good enough for the majors.
Yeah.
And then, so that means Patrick Wisdom. So does Patrick Wisdom play third base or does he play first base?
And I think that's the bigger problem right now. And I think the solution is Patrick Wisdom has proven that he's a major leaguer.
It's just, is he an everyday starting major leaguer, or should he be in more of a platoon situation? I kind of see him as a platoon guy, not an everyday guy.
I see him, and if he shows the improvement that he has, I see him as an everyday guy. And the question becomes, does he play first or third? You get that figured out, then you worry about that other position. And that's what I think they need to. I think that's the biggest thing this year. We got to figure out where Patrick fits best. Is he going to be our first baseman or is he going to be our third baseman? And then we go heavy after whichever one he's not going to be. And I think that's the solution, and that's where I hope they go. But yeah. So Rich, good show, great show, man. It's been great. We are right at about that 56-minute mark. Do you have any shout outs before we get off of the show?
I don't have any shout outs this week.
I don't either, and because of the show going off air, I don't actually get to see if we ended up
having any reactions or comments.
Yeah,
but if you do want to get a mention on toward the end of the show and you're watching us live on the Facebook feed, just leave a comment, leave a reaction, and if it's appropriate to say on air, we'll make sure to give you a shout out. So Mike, if they don't like watching, if they want to take us live or listen to archived footage of our show, where can they find us, Mike?
Well, you can find us anywhere where you find your normal podcast. We are a podcast after all. So Spotify. Thank you to Anchor for allowing us to get out to everywhere with RSS feeds and all that stuff. If you're listening to us on any of your podcast feeds, you'll have heard the commercial for them at the beginning. I think I have like $10 that I could get from them, but I've never tried, so I don't care. But anywhere where you get your podcasts, we are on all of the major platforms, including iHeart, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and so many more.
All right, Mike. Yep, and Mike, if they're listening to us in podcast land, they want to see the video feed of us, but they really don't like Facebook that much. Where else can they find us?
Why don't you tell me, Rich?
Well, Mike, you can find us here on YouTube. You can also find the archive videos on YouTube as well. And the third way that you can interact with our show is by voting in our poll questions. So,
and you do that by checking us out at facebook.com/fans of Balls and Sticks.
Or on Balls and Sticks, the podcast.
Yep.
Facebook pages. The poll questions get posted to both pages.
Yeah. So, Rich, what's it time to do?
Mike, let's go ahead and roll that outro.
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.